Good afternoon. The Coalition is preserving your life story for history. Why don't we start by having you introduce yourself?
My name is Maudelle Shirek, and I'm 91 years of age.
Where were you born?
I was born in Jefferson, Arkansas, between Pine Bluff and Little Rock.
How long did you live in the place of your birth?
Oh, I lived there until came out here in 1943.
Do you have any siblings?
No, I have nieces and nephews and grandnieces and grandnephews. And my late husband has grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
What are some of the earliest memories of your childhood?
Oh, being on the farm. I was brought up on a farm that my grandfather, he was my father's father, that homesteaded after he was freed as a slave. He came from Oakland, Mississippi, into Arkansas and homesteaded 160 acres of land that I was brought up on.
Why did you come here?
Well, came to work in the shipyards, really.
Do you recall exciting events that occurred during your childhood days?
Oh yes, it was very exciting. I've liked to garden, and I won a prize by putting up 33 different types of tomatoes. That was tomato soup, catsup, and it was for our 4-H club. And
so these were some of the things you grew on your land?
Yes, I grew a garden right along with my mother. And my great-grandmother even. I helped her garden.
Where did your parents originate?
Now, my mother's family, they were the Jacko family, came in there from Canada and on a covered wagon into Arkansas.
What was your mother's maiden name?
My mother's maiden name was Ramsey. He came from Georgia, really, when he was about 13 years old, into Jefferson, which was a sawmill town. And of course, he was white, and the white people didn't take to kids very much. And so he stayed down at the barn of my great-grandmothers, Sarah Jacko.
What was your father's name?
My father's name was Miller. You know, they say that generally the slaves took names of what the slaves were doing. They raised wheat and milled flour and so forth.
So what else did you grow on the land?
Oh, we grew potatoes, peanuts, popcorn, and also corn. But down on the river, 7 miles from us, at Arkansas River, they grew cotton and corn. And when you would lay by the corn, you would throw pumpkin seed in there and grow big pumpkins.
Did the women work the land?
Oh yes, the women worked. Some of the women plowed, and they worked right along with the men.
As a child, where did you spend most of your time?
Well, with my We spent most of the times in the field growing. I mean, we would help to plant the crops and help to harvest them.
Did you have a school playground or things?
Well, I remember the first school that they built for the ex-slaves' children. And of course, the community helped to build the school. And it was put out about 3 miles from each family, supposed to be, in a way. And we would walk to school. And of course, my father would go ahead of us. He rode to school on the horse.
What school did you attend, and what grade did you go to?
Well, my father, he was educated at Williams Industrial College by a Methodist school, they were abolitionists. And of course, when his father died, he came home to help his mother with the rest of the children and all, and therefore he was a teacher. And they built the school, built the outhouses. The people in the community helped to do that and built the swinging jennies for your playground and dug the well and cleared enough ground for us to play. We called it baseball, but it was really softball. And I couldn't. We had a young boy that was he was bow-legged, and he couldn't run, and I would run for him. He would hit the ball. He could really hit the ball, though, and I would do the running for him.
Was it unusual for blacks or coloreds to go to college in those days? And were there any whites in those colleges?
Yes, we only had colleges in the cities, like in Little Rock, which was 28 miles from my home to the north, and Pine Bluff, which was they called it the AM&N College at that time. That was in Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
Who or what had the most influence on you?
I think my father and mother and my great-grandmother, also my grandfather and grandmother on my father's side.
So they were some of the people to help you choose your occupation?
Yes, I guess my father, by being a teacher, I always wanted to be a teacher, school teacher.
What is your material status?
My what?
Are you married?
Not now. My husband is dead. He died in 1978.
So you was married, so how long was that?
Oh, I married in 63. I was late marriage.
Have you ever taught?
Well, I taught in a one-room school in Arkansas, in Jefferson, Arkansas.
What were some of the fondest memories as a young adult?
Well, working and teaching and going to school, I was always very curious.
Do you have any children?
No, my late husband had 2 daughters.
Do you think living in the Bay Area has been a plus or minus opposed to continuing to live in your birthplace?
Well, it has been interesting in both places because I've always found a way of working with people and enjoying people.
So tell me, what was the ages of your daughters?
My daughters, my husband's daughters, they, at the time, they were about in their 20s when their mother died. Their mother died in an auto accident. And so...
Are you involved in any community activities?
Oh, that's all I've been doing all my life, is all community activities with the schools and so forth, the entire community.
What year did you come to Oakland?
I came to Oakland in 1943.
What is your favorite color?
Well, I'd say blue, maybe, and pink, and a lot of the bright colors.
Do you have any favorite hobbies or activities?
Well, citizen participation is my favorite activity.
What brought you to Oakland?
Well, I guess it was the jobs, and I immediately entered school to take typing at down by the lake, Merritt.
What is your favorite food?
Mostly vegetables and fruits, because I was brought up on a farm where we had plenty of vegetables and fruits. This land that my grandfather homesteaded had once been occupied by the Indians, and so we had plenty of peaches, apples, plums, strawberries, blackberries, and of course what we call a muscadine, grape arbors, just all kinds of fruits.
Do you have a favorite quote that you live by daily?
Well, to try to treat others like I would be treated.
What did you do with Ron Dellums?
Well, Ron claims that I really forced him into political life. But I saw in him what I would like to see in myself.
I see. Is there anything else you would like to speak about?
Well, I would like for us to be much more neighborly and understand that even though you live 100 years, it's a short time.
What led you to become vice mayor?
Well, that was really, I don't know, just because I didn't become in the political life until very late. I was past 70 when I started out on the council, on this council.
Wasn't you running some kind of senior citizen?
Center, the West Berkeley Senior Center.
And someone said that you were too old.
Too old to run a senior center.
So you decided to run for city council?
Well, I was encouraged by the community to, in fact, Gus Newport really encouraged me to run at that time. When I ran for city council, I ran for the entire city. I was elected by the entire city.
So what did you do before political life?
Well, I worked in the community, for instance, like integrating the schools and trying to see to it that our children, all children, were really educated well. And the only way they know how to work together is to have projects together.
How many times did you run for city council?
Well, I've ran for city council first time in 1984. And so I've been on the council ever since 1984. However, before I ran for council, I ran unsuccessfully for the school board twice.
And then what led to vice mayor?
Well, being on the council so long, I guess.
The grandfather clause.
Yeah. And this council.
Tell us about your experience in Cuba.
Yeah, Cuba was a very good experience for me. I saw there where people really work together, and one of the things, they, no matter how poor they are, they have education, free education, from kindergarten to becoming a doctor or a lawyer or whatever you want to become. You get that education free.
So what year was this in Cuba? This is after Castro?
Yes. It's the first time I went to Cuba, I think, was in probably about 86.
So I understand you travel all over the world. What are some other countries that you've traveled?
Well, the first time I went to Africa was in 1962. I went to Ghana. It was very exciting there at what was going on at the time under Nkrumah. And of course, they had a peace parliament at that time in 1962.
Did you meet W.B. Du Bois?
Yes, I went to see him. He was ill at the time and couldn't stay up long at the time and talked. But I got the chance to talk with him. And Dr. Huntington.
What about Paul Robeson?
Yes, Paul Robeson was a great fan of mine.
Why did you go to Africa?
Well, at the time I was working at the Co-op Credit Union.
So you went with a group?
No, I went alone because Hodie and her husband, they were there. He went to teach them how to put in plumbing in Africa. At that time we had quite a few African Americans that went to help build in Ghana with electricity. They had electricians to go. And
this was during the time blacks was trying to find their roots, their black and proud era.
Well, I guess you can say that was true. But it was my father's. He wanted to always go to Africa, so I fulfilled his dream.
I understand you went to Europe.
Oh, yes, I got a chance to go to London and, of course, Paris, and went to the first peace assembly in Yugoslavia. That was in 1983.
Under what circumstances did you meet Nelson Mandela?
Well, I was chairman of the group when we sponsored him here after he had been released from prison. That was a very exciting time. I guess those days, it seemed to me, were much more exciting than these days, because now we're just into killing and not for making a better world.
So was there any places around America that you traveled?
Well, I just went back to Arkansas every now and then. Went to Hot Springs, where we would, my family and I would always go.
Do you believe young people should be involved in community activities?
Oh, yes, because they are involved now much more than we hear about, I think. And we have a lot of very good things going on with our young people.
So was most of your trips representatives of the council or what?
No, I don't. It's been for peace and for justice. And the only way we're going to have peace is to have justice.
I see that you have some interesting photographs.
Yeah, this is the picture of my father and mother that was taken probably in the 40s. They were the parents of 10 children. I'm the oldest of 10. Of course, there are only 4 of us left now. And this is my grandmother on my father's side. Yes.
Tell me, what are some of the interesting things about being vice mayor?
Well, you don't have any more power, I don't think, than just being on the council, really, but I guess...
You have veto power?
No, you don't have any veto power. You just have one vote. But I guess you can use it.
So you do have influence. It's just not an empty chair.
Yeah, I hope I have some influence.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Well, I would like for us to be much more conscious about the entire world than we are, I think.
When you say we, you're talking about people, or black people, white people?
Yeah, all people should be concerned, I think, about, because it affects us. Whatever happens nationally or internationally, it affects you.
Would you like to give us a thought on 911?
Well, that was... But I felt it. something was going to happen, but they didn't know quite what it was. But we have to understand how our policies affect other people's lives. You know, we can't just live off of the backs of other people because it affects them. For instance, we can't have globalization that other people don't get good wages and we be the ones to get good wages only. It's enough in this world for all of us to live decent lives and have decent income.
So you think that some young person could become vice mayor?
Oh, yes. They're going to have to. Because
you're going to move on.
Move on.
One day.
That's right.
I understand that you're natural food shopping for senior citizens. Tell us something about that. You like to do that?
Yes, we serve 3 meals a week, 3 days a week. So I shop on Tuesdays and do preparation of the food. And of course, we only serve fresh vegetables and fruits, no canned and processed. The only canned is probably a few tomatoes. And it's too bad that all the tomatoes we get in this country now come from someplace else. They're canned and processed in Italy. Now, we used to have canning, here. But now we're giving that work to somebody else because they can do it cheaper.
Do you do the cooking for how many seniors?
Well, I don't do the cooking anymore, but I've taught them how to prepare the food because we mostly steam and use no salt. We put salt on the table if you want to use it. I tell them.
But you don't encourage it?
No, I don't encourage it. Because one of the reasons why that I started those kind of meals was because of the health that our community was in. Had diabetes, hypertension, and you can control all of that by your diet.
Is this part of your health program?
Yes.
You have a health program?
Well, we only use virgin olive oil and onions, garlic, ginger, oregano, different herbs to season our food with. And so they don't really care for that much salt and sugar. And we use fruit as our dessert. On Wednesdays, we have baked chicken legs, pinto beans. They are seasoned with olive oil and onions. And of course, we have fresh greens every Wednesday. Everybody likes those. They're either kale greens or dinosaur greens or mustard and turnips. Just a different mixture of greens.
What about...
and brown rice, steamed brown rice, and carrots.
What about beans? I know you're familiar with beans.
Well, every day we have some kind of bean. because it's a good filler for people.
Yes.
People should. We didn't know that when we were brought up out in the country that we were having good food instead of when we had beans and black-eyed peas, of course.
Well, you're a perfect example of eating right and having good health.
Yes, I've been fortunate that way.
What is some of the most conjugal problems that you may have?
Well, I don't know whether we get enough
Controversy problems that you may run up on.
Well, it's the education of our children, I think, is unfortunately Berkeley, we've had a myth about certain things. We don't face up to the issues as they should be.
Would you like to elaborate on the myth?
Well, the myth that we are so liberal or such a, in a way, we are kind of reactionary.
And more conservative
Than
they let on to be.
To be.
What is the most interesting thing about being vice mayor?
Well, I guess you kind of think, I don't know whether vice mayor makes it or not, but I'm close up to see what really happens, what really goes on.
Well, the coalition is proud to honor you as one of the historians in the program Eternal Voices, June 2002. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Vegetables. You really look